The laws. Ecclesiasticus chapter 39, verse 1. But he that giveth his mind to the law of the Most High and is occupied in the meditation thereof will seek out the wisdom of all the ancient and be occupied in prophecies. He will keep the sayings of the renowned men, and where subtle parables are, he will be there also. He will seek out the secrets of grave sentences and be conversant in dark parables. He shall serve among great men and appear before princes. He will travel through strange countries, for he hath tried the good and the evil among men.
A judge who presents an acquittal plea must not present an argument or conviction in capital case. Deuteronomy 23:2. A bastard shall not enter the congregation of the Lord. Even to his 10th generation shall he not enter into the congregation of the Lord.
The courts must not carry out the death penalty of stoning. Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 24. Then ye shall bring them both out unto the gate of that city, and ye shall stone them with stones that they die. The damsel, because she cried not, being in the city, and the man, because he hath humbled his neighbor's wife. So thou shalt put away evil from among you.
As the courts must carry out the death penalty of burning. Leviticus 20:14. And if a man take a wife and her mother, it is wickedness. They shall be burnt with fire, both he and they, that there be no wickedness among you.
The courts must carry out the death penalty of the sword. Exodus chapter 21, verse 20. And if a man smite his servant or his maid with the rod, and he die under his hand, he shall be surely punished.
All right, hold on. I gotta move your face around here. The courts must. What am I on 546?
Yes, sir.
The courts must carry out the death penalty of strangulation. Leviticus 20:10. And the man that committeth adultery with another man's wife, even he that committeth adultery with his neighbor's wife, the adulterer and the adulteress shall surely be put to death.
The courts must hang those stoned for blasphemy or idolatry. Deuteronomy chapter 21, verse 22. And if a man have committed a sin worthy of death, and he be put to death, and thou hang him on a tree.
Excuse me. They be executed on the day that they are killed. Deuteronomy 21:23. His body shall not remain all night upon the tree, but thou shalt in any wise bury him that day. For he that is hanged is accursed of God, that thy land be not defiled, which the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance.
Not to delay burial overnight. Deuteronomy chapter 21, verse 23. His body shall not remain all night upon the tree, but thou shalt in any wise bury him that day. For he that is hanged is accursed of God, that thy land be not defiled, which the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance.
The court must not let the sorcerer live. Exodus 22:17. If her father utterly refuses to give her unto him, he shall pay money according to the dowry of virgin.
The court must give lashes to the wrongdoer. Deuteronomy chapter 25, verse 2. And it shall be, if the wicked man be worthy to be beaten, that the judge shall cause him to lie down and to be beaten before his face according to his fault by a certain number.
The court must not exceed the prescribed number of lashes. Deuteronomy 25 and 40, I'm sorry, Deuteronomy 25 and 3. 40 stripes he may give him and not exceed, lest if he should exceed and beat him above these with many stripes, then thy brother shall seem vile unto thee.
The court must not kill anybody on circumstantial evidence. Exodus chapter 23, verse 7. Keep thee far from a false matter, and the innocent and the righteous slay thou not, for I will not justify the wicked.
The court must not punish anybody who was forced to do a crime. Deuteronomy 22 and 26. But unto the damsel thou shalt do nothing. There is in the damsel no sin worthy of death. For as when a man riseth against his neighbor and slayeth him, even so is this matter.
A judge must not pity the murderer or assaulter at the trial. Deuteronomy chapter 19, verse 13. Thine eye shall not pity him, but thou shalt put away the guilt of innocent blood from Israel, that it may go well with thee.
A judge must not have mercy on the poor man at the trial. Leviticus 19:15. Ye shall do no unrighteousness in judgment. Thou shalt not respect the person of the poor, nor honor the person of the mighty, but in righteousness shalt thou judge thy neighbor.
A judge must not respect the great man at the trial. Leviticus chapter 19, verse 13. Thou shalt not defraud thy neighbor, neither rob him. The wages of him that is hired shall not abide with thee all night until the morning.
A judge must not decide unjustly the case of the habitual transgressor. Exodus 23 and 6. Thou shalt not rest the judgment of thy poor in his case, in his cause.
A judge must not pervert justice. Leviticus chapter 19, verse 15. Ye shall do no unrighteousness in judgment. Thou shalt not respect the person of the poor, nor honor the person of the mighty, but in righteousness shalt thou judge thy neighbor.
A judge must not pervert a case involving a convert or orphan. Deuteronomy 24 and 17. Thou shalt not pervert the judgment of the stranger, nor of the fatherless, nor take a widow's raiment to pledge.
Judge righteously. Leviticus chapter 19, verse 15. Ye shall do no unrighteousness in judgment. Ye shall not respect the person of the poor, nor honor the person of the mighty, but in righteousness shalt thou judge thy neighbor.
The judge must not fear a violent man in judgment. Deuteronomy 1 and 17. Ye shall not respect persons in judgment, but ye shall hear the small as well as the great. Ye shall not be afraid of the face of man, for the judgment is God's, and the cause that is too hard for you, bring it unto me, and I will hear it.
Judges must not accept bribes. Exodus chapter 23, verse 8. And thou shalt take no gift, for the gift blindeth the wise, and perverteth the words of the righteous.
Judge must not accept testimony unless both parties are present. Exodus 23 and 1. Thou shalt not raise a false report. Put not thine hand with the wicked to be an unrighteous witness.
Not to curse judges. Exodus chapter 22, verse 27. For that is his covering only. It is his raiment for his skin, wherein shall he sleep. And it shall come to pass when he crieth unto me that I will hear, for I am gracious.
Not to curse the head of state or leader of the Sanhedrin. Exodus 22 and 27. For that is his covering only. It is his raiment for his skin, wherein he should sleep. And it shall come to pass when he crieth unto me that I will hear, for I am gracious.
Not to curse any upstanding Jew. Leviticus chapter 19, verse 14. Thou shalt not curse the deaf, nor put a stumbling block before the blind, but shalt fear thy God. I am the Lord.
Anybody who knows evidence must testify in court. Leviticus 5 and 1. And if a soul sin and hear the voice of swearing, and is a witness whether he had seen or known of it, if he do not utter it, then he shall bear his iniquity.
Carefully interrogate the witness. Deuteronomy chapter 13, verse 15. Thou shalt surely smite the inhabitants of that city with the edge of the sword, destroying it utterly, and all that is therein, and the cattle thereof, with the edge of the sword.
A witness must not serve as a judge in capital crimes. Deuteronomy 19 and 17. And both the men between whom the controversy is shall stand before the Lord, before the priest and the judge, which shall be in those days.
Not to accept testimony from a lone witness. Deuteronomy chapter 19, verse 15. One witness shall not rise up against man for any iniquity or for any sin, in any sin that he sinneth. At the mouth of 2 witnesses or at the mouth of 3 witnesses shall the matter be established.
Transgressors must not testify. Exodus 23 and 1. Thou shalt not raise a false report. Put not thy hand with the wicked to be an unrighteous witness.
Relatives of the litigants must not testify. Deuteronomy chapter 24, verse 16. The fathers shall not be put to death for the children, neither shall the children be put to death for the fathers. Every man shall be put to death for his own sin.
Not to testify falsely. Deuteronomy 19 and 16. If a false witness rise up against any man to testify against him that which is wrong.
Punish the false witness as they try to punish the defendant. Deuteronomy chapter 19, verse 19. Then shall ye do unto him as he had thought to have done unto his brother. So shalt thou put evil away from among you.
Act according to the ruling of the Sanhedrin. Deuteronomy 17 and 11. According to the sentence of the law which they shall teach thee, and according to the judgment which they shall tell thee, thou shalt do. Thou shalt not decline from the sentence which they shall show thee, to the right hand nor to the left.
Not to deviate from the word of the Sanhedrin. Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 11. According to the sentence of the law which they shall teach thee, and according to the judgment which they shall tell thee, thou shalt do. Thou shalt not decline from the sentence which they shall show thee, to the right hand nor to the left.
Not to add to the Torah commandments or explanations. Deuteronomy 13 and 1. If there arise among you a prophet or a dreamer of dreams, and giveth thee a sign or a wonder.
Not to diminish from the Torah any commandments in whole or in part. Deuteronomy chapter 13, verse 1. If there arise among you a prophet or a dreamer of dreams, and giveth thee a sign or a wonder.
Not to curse your father and mother. Exodus 21:17. And he that curses his father or his mother shall surely be put to death.
All right. And we'll start with 581 next time. All right. All right. So today's topic is right there. The truth about Christmas, the celebration of Nimrod. The truth about Christmas, the celebration of Nimrod. We got some little cute snowflakes. I thought about putting a Christmas tree and a Santa Claus and Yuletide and mistletoe. And I said, nah, that might be too much imagery for too long of a duration. People catch spirits.
Right.
So, but today's study, actually, so even before I talk about the sources where the study is going to come from, because I have two primary sources, or two sources that I'm going to come from. So before I discuss about those sources, let us go to the Gospel of John, John chapter 8, verse 32. So we're going to look at the origin of Christmas. So John chapter 8, verse 32.
John chapter 8, verse 32. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
And the truth shall make you free. So I'm going to do a lot of presenting of what others indicate. Because I wasn't, Michael has only been around X number of years. So I only know what I know in this time period. So we're going to let the scholars before me show you what they've come up with. I'm just going to present that information. And through presenting that information, we're going to see the truth that Christmas has nothing to do with Jesus Christ, not the Christ of the Bible. Go to Psalms chapter 25, verse 5.
Book of Psalms, chapter 25, verse 5. Lead me in thy truth, and teach me, for thou art the God of my salvation. On thee will I wait all the day.
Mm-hmm. On thee will I wait all the day. So my admonishment to any of us is to understand the matter. Christmas Easter, Halloween, Feast of Tabernacle, Feast of Dedication, so on and so on and so forth. Here lately, I find myself getting into these debates, if you will, where the individuals that I'm debating with, they like to run to, well, that's your interpretation. That's your interpretation. And you know, we hear that phrase. I hear that phrase so much that my argument is this in response to that's your interpretation. If we're talking about something abstract, a piece of paint, an ink blot, give me 1 second, you all. Give me 1 second. Bear with me so I can try to make this point.
Okay.
From movies and things, psycho thriller movies, and we're probably familiar with ink blots. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I could say, you know, what's that right there? Now they're saying that it's venom. But if they didn't label this and say that this was the character Venom, would we know that this was Venom?
No.
You know, so this is something. These images are abstract. We like to think that these are probably, you know, butterflies, bugs, things of that nature. But are they? This one right here. It's abstract. How do we know what this is? So all of us could come on here and say, oh, that's so and so and so and so. That's such and such and such and such. And we probably all could be correct. But we might just totally be incorrect without having enough information about something. Then, yeah, we come to a situation of interpretation. Go to, real quick, go to 1 Peter's. Second Peter's, my bad. 2 Peter's chapter 1 and verse 20.
Book of 2 Peter's chapter 1 and verse 20. Knowing this first, that no prophecy of the scriptures is of any private interpretation.
No scripture is of any private interpretation. So we're not going to view the scriptures and think, oh, that's a butterfly. Oh, that's venom. Blah, 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 blah. So if we find ourselves getting to a place where we are arguing over the facts of the scripture, then my admonishment to myself and to others, do a thorough investigation of the scripture. How do we do a thorough investigation? Well, we got to look at the cultural context. So we have to go back to that time period and understand that time period. We may have to go to the language of that day. I was sometimes, and Elder Shamash, you know that I'll go to Tinsdale Bible, and I'll read from the Tinsdale Bible to see, okay, how did he write this in English? You know, and so sometimes we have to do a thorough study, archaeological study, cultural study, and so forth. Sometimes we just can't go on the surface. Sometimes we got to dig deep. So I say all that to say, from this study, I'm going to present to you guys information. Oh, you guys can't see my screen. My apologies.
Well, I can see you, but I can't see a screen yet. Have
Okay,
you shared?
it's coming. I'm going to share with you information that is coming from this book right here, Celebrations, the Complete Book of American Holidays by Robert J. Myers. And I'm going to present to you information that is coming from this gentleman right here, Alexander Hyssop, who wrote this book right here, The Two Babylons. Okay. And so this is the source material where we're going to be talking about the origins of Christmas. So let's start with this one here. So in this book, Celebration, I am, those who may be interested in getting this book for yourself, this first page, this is coming from page 309. It's coming from page 309. Shamash, can you read the first two paragraphs for us?
If you can make it bigger, because I can barely see it.
Okay. Let me see here. How is that?
Nothing.
You still can't see it?
It's too small.
It's too small? All right. I'll read it. The biblical narrative of the birth of Jesus contains no indication of the date that the event occurred. However, Luke's report that the shepherds were abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flocks by night, suggests that Jesus may have been born in summer or early fall. Since December is cold and rainy in Judea, it is likely the shepherds would have sought shelter for their flocks all night. And we're going to see this account, this perspective, this argument. We're going to see Alexander Hyssop make this present a similar case, saying that time period is too cold for December 25th to have been the time that Jesus Christ was born. So in this book, however, it goes on to say, in the 3rd century, efforts were made to ascertain the date of the nativity, but only in the year 336 was definite mention made of December 25th festival in commemoration of Jesus' birth. Now, Shamash, from our earlier lesson several weeks ago, what do we know about 336 AD?
336 AD.
Or that time period.
What's my memory? Let's see if I'm notating.
Think of a man.
Constantine.
So what's going on in that time period? We had 2 classes dealing with Constantine. What is Constantine doing around that time period?
Around that time period, I think he was manipulating.
Remember, he's merging what?
Depends on what it is. He's merging the Sabbath with Sunday. He's merging Easter.
Correct. He's merging religions. From the video that we shared out, from the book that we discussed on, the Council of Nicaea, we revealed that Constantine in this time period is merging religions. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So, but only in the year 336 was the definite mention made of the December 25th festival in commemoration of Jesus's birth. This was in the Philocanian calendar and pertained only to the Western Church. By the middle of the 4th century, the feast was being celebrated in the Eastern branches on January 6th, the feast of Epiphany. This was an older feast commemorating the baptism of Jesus. Okay, so this whole concept of December 25th, the Israelites, they for 300 and some odd years, why are they not honoring Christ's birthday? Why is there no record of them honoring Christ's birthday? And when it does come about, it comes about with these Romans, that it's honoring Jesus's birthday. Okay. Mithratic influence on Christmas. Remember when we were watching the video, we were looking at the video and we saw how there were 2 religions going on. There was that of the Christians and there was that of the Mithric individuals. Remember they had the carvings on the stones. If you don't remember, you go back and watch that video where we're doing the video blog on Constantine. So here it says, prior to the celebration of Christmas, December 25th, in the Roman world was the Natalis Solis Invicti, the birthday of the unconquerable sun. This feast, which took place just after the winter solstice of the Julian calendar, was in honor of the sun god, S-U-N, sun god, Mithras, originally a Persian deity whose cult penetrated the Roman world in the 1st century BC. By the year 274 AD, Mithras had attained such popularity among the soldiery and such favor in the eyes of the emperors that Aurelian proclaimed the cult of Sol Invictus the Roman emperor's official state religion. So the Romans, they're just constantly adopting religions and deities for their way of life. If it's going to win them some money and get them some prestige, they down for the cause. Saturnalia of Rome. I'm still coming from the book that we spoke about. Besides the Mithric influence, other pagan forces were at work. From the 17th of December until the 23rd, Romans celebrated the ancient feast of Saturnalia, a period of merrymaking and jubilation. It was commemorative of the golden age of Saturn, the god of sowing and husbandry. Husbandry is agriculture life, plants, animals, who brought the inhabitants of Italy peace and plenty under his wise rule. So this is who they're worshiping, Saturnalia. The Saturnalia was a time of equality between freemen and slaves. The slaves could shout at his master and carry on as lustily as he pleased. Actions that normally called for severe punishment would be overlooked in the social permissiveness of the season. So we'll give the slaves also a reason to fall in love with this particular day. The slaves can feel like they got some power on this particular day. You and I probably would have fell in love if we've been oppressed 360 some odd days a year. Now we got this one day out of a year where we get to put on purple robes. We get to dictate how things are gonna go. Yeah, we'll fall in love with this day too, especially if we don't know any better. A king of the Saturnalia mock royalty was chosen by lot from among the freemen of the city. Okay, so it's still showing you about how they the slaves and the freemen. All right. Here's another interesting point of entry. Here's what this guy says that the Puritans, how they felt here in America concerning Christmas. The Reformation came in on a tide that threatened to obliterate Christmas entirely. In England, for example, the Puritans could not tolerate this celebrating, for which there was no biblical sanction. I'm going to say that again. For which there was no biblical sanction. Consequently, the Roundhead Parliament of 1643 outlawed the feasts of Christmas, Easter, and Whitsuntide, along with the Saints' Day. Clergymen were imprisoned for preaching on Christmas Day. The parish officers of St. Margaret's, Westminster, among others, were fined for decorating the church with rosemary and bay. But observances of this deeply rooted holiday continued in 1647. The Puritans responded with stricter measures. Riots broke out in London, Oxford, Ipswich, Canterbury, and the county of Kent. The Puritans, however, were adamant, and for 12 years, the feast day was an ordinary day of business, noted, if at all, with a fast, with the rest. So the Puritans like, hell no, get that out of here. We ain't got nothing to do with that. Take that mess away because it's not biblically sanctioned. Here we see growth of Christmas celebrations. Strong religious antagonism to the feast lasted from 1620 to about 1750. So that's more than 100 years. That's 120 years, 130 years. If my math is right. They were like, no, get that wicked holiday out of here. The diminishing objection to Christmas was probably brought about by the rapid growth of the country as a whole. The excess of economic, political, and social problems tended to draw attention away from denominational concerns. Also, the intermingling of persons with different national and religious backgrounds had a leveling effect. So we got issues with money, and we got the people mixing with one another. What was this? What was the sin of Solomon?
Boredom. Or was it? Yeah. Dealing with women, strange women.
Explain strange women.
Women, heathen women from nations.
Why was that a sin?
Because the Most High had that as a law.
Go to 1 Kings chapter 11. First Kings chapter 11, verse 2.
It says you might mute your phone right now.
Say that again.
I was talking to Sister Gwen. She might want to mute.
Why?
Sound like you were coughing. That's why.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Mike is still there?
Yes, sir. First Kings chapter 11 and verse 2.
You hadn't given anything. Okay. First Kings chapter 11, verse 2. The nations concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel, ye shall not go into them, neither shall they come unto you. I said that right. For surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Solomon clave unto these in love.
That's the reason right there. For surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. So, just like it happened with the children of Israel, it's going to always happen. So we see it even here that the diminishing objection to Christmas was probably brought about by the rapid growth of the country as a whole. The excess of economic, political, and social problems tended to draw attention away from denominational concerns. So we're dealing with all these other issues, and we tend to forget that probably the root cause of this is you're not honoring God the way you should be honoring God. So we start looking at an immediate effect and not looking at the root cause. So, and then in addition to that right there, what we just read, he goes on to say also the intermingling of persons with different national and religious backgrounds had a leveling effect. So you got this person with this belief marrying this person or having a child with this person with that belief. That's a house divided. If I marry a woman who practices witchcraft and I don't practice witchcraft, that child is going to be jacked up. Because if that child spends any time with me, in those moments that child is spending time with me, I'm going to be saying, hey, what your mama doing is out of order. When the child is with the mother going to say to that child, your daddy don't know what he's talking about. You know, to each his own. You know, that's how the mama going to say, oh, you know. And so that child is going to go about practicing however he or she is going to practice. Obama signed into law in 2014 saying that it is okay for men to marry men, for women to marry women. We are not even 10 years removed from 2014. We're not even 10 years removed from that. And we can see in less than a decade, the mind of these young babies. And I work with young children. And some of them, this is normal. This lifestyle, hey, this is acceptable. These children that I work with, they are right at, I don't think the oldest child is older than 11 years old. So they're just a year, 2 years old when Obama signs this thing into law. Okay, so let's get back to the article. So he goes on to say, an important Christmas event in American history was the crossing of the Delaware by Washington and his troops in 1776. On December 23rd, the general wrote to Colonel Cadwalader, Christmas Day at night, 1 hour before day, is the time fixed for our attempt on Trenton. For heaven's sake, keep this time to yourself. So showing that December 25th is becoming a time of remembrance for the American psyche. That's the point in this passage right here. Okay. But remember what we read earlier. It has no biblical significance. We read that earlier. It's not sanctioned in the Bible. Alabama was the first state to grant legal recognition to Christmas in 1836, showing you how brand new Christmas is. By 1890, all the states and territories had made similar acknowledgement, including the District of Columbia in 1870. It is interesting to note that Christmas is the only annual religious holiday to receive this official and secular sanction. Okay. All right, so that's all that I'm gonna pull from that book. And I said earlier that this other guy, Alexander Hyssop, that he too, he's going to touch on some of these points. Bear with me. I want us to read about this guy, Alexander Hyslop. Okay, so this is he. And from what I can tell, he's an Edomite. Okay. Born 1807, died in 1865. This book that we're discussing was published in 1853. He was a Free Church of Scotland minister, known for his criticisms of the Roman Catholic Church. He was the son of Stephen Hyslop, a Mason by occupation and an elder of Relief Church. Okay. Let's go to this real quick. In the book, Hyslop argued that the Catholic Church was a Babylonian mystery cult and pagan. But Protestants worshiped the true Jesus and the true God. He believed that Roman Catholic religious practices are pagan practices that were grafted onto true Christianity during the reign of Constantine, which we can kind of hit on some of those things in previous classes. Mm-hmm. Then the merger between the Roman state religion and its adoration of the mother and child was transferred to Christianity, merging Christian characters with pagan mythology. Okay, so let's now go to the writings of this book. All right. So in the book, this particular section that we'll look at is, make sure this is large enough. There we go. Is that large enough?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll take what I can get.
So this is coming from this section of the book. Okay. Chapter 3, Festivals, Section 1. Okay. And let me go to this highlighted. The festivals of Rome are innumerable, but 5 of the most important may be singled out for elucidation, for illuminating, for making it known, making it clear. Christmas Day, Lady Day, Easter, the Nativity of St. John, and the Feast of the Assumption. Each and all of these can be proved to be Babylonian. So he's saying that they basically, that the Romans robbed the Babylonians. That's what he's saying. And this entire book that this man is writing is saying that Rome basically is a forgery of Babylon. Okay. At first, as to the festival in honor of the birth of Christ or Christmas. So he's saying Christmas is a forgery of a Babylonian custom, that this thing goes back so far, long ago. How comes it that festival was connected with the 25th of December? There is not a word in the scriptures about the precise day of his birth, Jesus Christ, or the time of the year when he was born, which is true. We like to go to Luke. Go to Luke chapter 2 and verse 41 and 42.
Luke chapter 2, verse 41. Now his parents went to Jerusalem every year at the feast of the Passover.
When is Passover?
Once again, it's in spring in the Abib.
In the month of Abib. So Passover doesn't take place until springtime. Read one more.
42. And when he was 12 years old, they went up to Jerusalem after the custom of the feast.
So when did he turn 12? Did he turn 12 at Passover, on Passover? He died on Passover. There are arguments that are made that says that Jesus Christ was born and died on Passover. So that puts Christ in springtime being born. Okay. Let's go back to this article. Okay. What is recorded there implies that at what time soever his birth took place, it could not have been on the 25th of December. So this is what Alexander is arguing. Now he's about to give us his argument. Okay, and so what I have highlighted in this light blue is his argument dealing with the climate. At the time that the angel announced his birth to the shepherds of Bethlehem, they were there feeding their flocks by night in the open fields. Now, no doubt, the climate of Palestine is not as severe as the climate of this country. Remember, he's from Scotland. But even there, though the heat of the day be considerable, the cold of the night from December to February is very piercing. And it was not the custom for the shepherds of Judea to watch their flocks in the open fields later than 36, about the end of October. It is in the last degree incredible then that the birth of Christ could have taken place at the end of December. There is great unanimity among commentators on this point. Besides Barnes, Dodge, Lightfoot, Joseph Scaliger, and Jennings in his Jewish Antiquities, who are all of opinion that December 25th could not be the right time of our Lord's nativity. So he's saying, hey, even the folks, I'm making this argument, but here are other scholars who make the same argument he's saying. The celebrated Joseph Mead pronounces a very decisive opinion to the same effect after a long and careful disquisition. I can now see. Okay, you guys can see my screen, yes?
Yes.
Okay, all right, all praises. Among the arguments that adduces the following: at the birth of Christ, every woman and child was to go to be taxed at the city whereto they belong. Whether some had long journeys, but the middle of winter was not fitting for such a business, especially for women with child and children to travel in. Therefore, Christ could not be born in the depth of winter. Again, at the time of Christ's birth, the shepherds lay abroad watching with their flocks in the nighttime. But this was not likely to be in the middle of winter. And if any shall think the winter wind was not so extreme in these parts, let him remember the words of Christ in the gospel. Pray that your flight be not in winter. If the winter was so bad a time to flee in, it seems no fit time for shepherds to lie in the fields in, and women and children to travel in. Indeed, it is admitted by the most learned and candid writers of all parties that the day of our Lord's birth cannot be determined, and that within the Christian church, no such festival as Christmas was ever heard of till the 3rd century as AD, and not till the 4th century was far advanced did it gain much observance. And we just read about the 3rd century and the 4th century from the first book that we looked at. How then did the Roman Church fix on December the 25th as Christmas Day? So in his first argument, he's saying it's impossible. That winter time would have been too cold. You had the shepherds who were watching. Now remember that when the shepherds came to Christ, how old was Christ when the shepherds had come?
How old was Christ when the shepherds had come?
Yes.
I would be guessing I was going to say 12. Oh, you talking about the so-called, wait a minute, the so-called 3 wise men?
Correct.
No, he was
Birth.
I reckon.
Say that again.
Different.
I'm gonna show you. go to Matthew chapter 2. Matthew chapter 2, start at verse 1.
The book of Matthew, chapter 2 and verse 1. Now, when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, Where is he that is born of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east, and are come to worship him. When Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And when he had gathered all the chief priests and scribes of the people together, he demanded of them where Christ should be born. He said unto him, In Bethlehem of Judea, for thus is written by the prophet, And thou, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, art not the least among the prince of Judah. For out of thee shall come a governor, who my people Israel. And Herod, when he had privily called the wise men, inquired of them diligently what time the star. And he sent them to Bethlehem and said, Go and search diligently for a young child. And when ye have found him, bring me more word again, that I may come and worship him also. When they had heard the king, they departed. And lo, the star, which they saw is in the east, went before them, till it came and stood over where the young child was. When they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceeding great joy. And when they were coming to the house, they saw the young child with Mary, his mother, and fell down and worshiped him.
Now jump down to verse 16.
Verse 16. Then Herod, when he saw that he was mocked of the wise men, was exceeding wroth, and sent forth and slew all the children that were in Bethlehem and in all thereof, for 2 years old and under, according to the time which had diligently inquired of the wise men.
So how old was Christ?
2 or under. 2 years or under.
Correct. So Christ was not an infant.
He was a toddler, just about.
Correct. So by the time the wise men got there, Christ he's like you just said, you used the word toddler. Okay. So I don't know why I made that point, but we have it. Let's go back to the article. Okay, so we was discussing that the wise men had to get to Christ. They, during the time when they're out there in the field, they're not out there. So in other words, when they saw that star, they wouldn't have seen that star in the dead of winter, is the point. The star representing the time that Christ would have been born or what have you, for them to go and travel, to go meet with Christ and so on and so forth. That was the point. So continuing on, with Christmas and where it comes from. Christmas was originally a pagan festival, is beyond all doubt. The time of the year and the ceremonies with which it is still celebrated prove its origin. In Egypt, the son of Isis, the Egyptian title for the Queen of Heaven, was born at this very time, about the time of the winter solstice. So this becomes a place where we really want to, I think we saw this term, winter solstice, when we were looking at the other book. But this really what it's going to kind of boil down to, winter solstice and a few other things, a couple other things. The very name by which Christmas is popularly known among ourselves, Yule Day, proves at once its pagan and Babylonian origin. Yule is the Chaldean name for an infant or little child. And as the 25th of December was called by our pagan Anglo-Saxon ancestors, Yule Day, or the Child's Day, and the night that preceded it, Mother Night, long before they came in contact with Christianity, that sufficiently proves its real character, far and wide in the realms of paganism was this birthday observed. Okay, so this is going back to Nimrod and Semiramis. We're going to touch on that in a moment. And a lot of this stuff that I'm passing, this is a lot of interesting information as well to show how other cultures throughout the known world at that time all have a very similar story, and each of these similar stories all come back to Tammuz, Nimrod. Here we go. So I want to get to the Christmas tree. The Christmas tree, now so common among us, was equally common in pagan Rome and pagan Egypt. In Egypt, that tree was the palm tree. So let's see what a palm tree looks like. So this is the tree that would have been cut down. This would have been the Christmas tree. As a matter of fact, while we have this image on the board, this image right here, go to Jeremiah chapter 10. You know what I want. Jeremiah chapter 10 and verse 2 through 5. You got it, Shamash?
I had myself muted. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Jeremiah 2:2. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven. For the heathen are dismayed at them. For the customs of the people are vain. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workmen with the axe. They did it with silver and with gold. They fastened it with nails and with hammers, that it move not. They are upright as the palm tree, but speak not. They must needs be born.
Okay, and we're going to get into why they need to be carried about, born. So they stand upright as the palm tree. It says that they fasten it. So here you go. Here's a simple tree stand so that the tree could be fastened. Here's a tree stand so that the tree could be fastened. Here you go. Here's one so that the tree can be fastened. Right? It's verse 4. Jeremiah chapter 10, verse 4. Read that again.
Jeremiah 10:4. They deck it with silver and with gold. They fasten it with nails and with hammers, that it move not.
So here it is being fastened. We're familiar with this in our customs. I mean, now today we have
we do have a stand stuff.
We have, we have nice, so we wouldn't understand anymore, because it's made of metal. It's all pretty. Look at this one here. That one, look how nice that one looks. Or this one right here, it's all made of gold. So modern time, we wouldn't have no idea what chapter 10, verse 4 is talking about. Now, I grew up on this one right here, this plastic thing with the four pegs that become a base.
Likewise.
So you and I will read chapter 10, verse 4 and have no concept of what the Bible is trying to talk about. But this is what it's talking about. Okay. So let's get back to this article.
I'm muting again.
Okay. The Christmas tree, now so common among us, was equally common in pagan Rome and pagan Egypt. In Egypt, that tree was the palm tree. In Rome, it was the fir tree. The fir tree. What does the fir tree look like? There you go. Isn't that our traditional Christmas tree right there?
Yes.
Okay. The palm tree denoting the pagan Messiah as Baal Tamar, the fir referring to him as Baal Berith, the mother of Adonis, the sun god of great mediatorial divinity, mediator, was mystically said to have been changed into a tree. And when in that state, to have brought forth her divine son. If the mother was a tree, the son must have been recognized as the man the branch. And this entirely accounts for the putting of the Yule log into the fire on Christmas Eve, and the appearance of the Christmas tree the next morning, as Zoroaster the seed of the woman, which name also signified Ignigenia, or born of the fire, he has to enter the fire on Mother Night, that he may be born the next day out of it as the branch of God, or the tree that brings all divine gifts to men. But why? It may be asked, does he enter the fire under the symbol of a law? To understand this, it must be remembered that the divine child born at the winter solstice was born as a new incarnation of the great God, after that God had been cut in pieces on purpose to revenge his death upon his murderers. Now the great God, cut off in the midst of his power and glory, was symbolized as a huge tree, stripped of all its branches and cut down almost to the ground. But the great serpent, the symbol of the life restoring, I can't say that word, a Scolopus, twist itself around the dead stock, and lo, at its side up sprouts a young tree, a tree of an entirely different kind that is destined never to be cut down by hostile power. Even the palm tree, the well-known symbol of victory. So the palm tree is a known symbol of victory. The Christmas tree, as has been stated, was generally at Rome a different tree, even the fir. But the very same idea was implied in the palm tree, was implied in the Christmas fir. For that covertly symbolized. So, all right, I want to move on to another document. Before I move on, so do you all understand that what's going on? And I'm move on to another document that's going to hopefully make it come a little bit clearer. Nimrod, his mother, he is this great person that's killed. He's chopped up into these pieces. So the tree being chopped up into pieces, that symbolizes him. And so she's going to cause the logs to be burned to ashes, and through the ashes, new growth, new tree growth, plant growth is going to sprout up. Hence, the fir tree, or hence the palm tree, showing how great that Nimrod, Tammuz, is. He is the great savior. Do you all understand that so far with the document that I just read? Is that so far understood, or a little murky?
Yes, thanks for breaking it down, because yes, it's a little clearer with you breaking it down like you just did.
Okay. So now, go ahead, Shamash.
Okay, I get the picture. I got it.
All right. Now, let's take a look at this guy losing his life and being chopped up. Let's see how great he really was. And if my facial expression says how great he really was, let's go and read this document.
In reference to what you just said, I almost want to volunteer to go to like Forest Park and shred up some Christmas trees. I know how to turn that stuff into mulch at the end of the season.
Right. Did you all see, real quick, let me deviate just a second. Someone in New York set the Christmas tree on fire for, I think, for Fox News.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, someone set the Christmas tree at Fox News, and the big tree in front of Fox News, I think it is. They set it on fire.
Yeah, but they always burn.
Did they say why? Was that a significant? I mean, what was that for? Just to justify? I mean, why did they do that? Did they say, or was someone just being destructive just because? Was it a reason?
As far as we know, it's just someone being destructive just because. As far as we know, they didn't. There was, as far as the news report goes, there were no statements from the person that they apprehended who had did it. So they caught the person.
Oh, okay.
Immediately they caught the person.
Can y'all hear me?
Go ahead, Shamash.
Yeah, from what I understand, he almost burned himself up in that situation because the tree on fire while he was in the tree.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
Can you repeat that? I didn't hear that.
From what they say, he was still in the tree when he set it on fire.
Oh my. All right. Thank you.
Sound like he was sitting on the branch. The back of him on that branch is the base of the tree. But he decided to cut the branch in between him and the tree. If you know what I mean.
Not really, but basically I hear you saying he got himself caught up.
In other words, if he cut where he was cutting, him and the branch was going down.
Okay.
Fire was in between him and the ground.
Oh, goodness.
But he made it out okay.
So anyway, let me continue on. All right. Here we go. All right, so let me read this to you. Now, this is still coming from Alexander Hyssop's book. Here we go. Let me start right here. This is well established by the accounts of the death of both Tammuz and Osiris. So let me prime you guys. Nimrod, from one culture to the next culture, from Egypt to Greek to Rome to all these ancient cultures, Nimrod, everything about Nimrod stays the same. His name changes, but he becomes all these different deities with a name change. But the way he gets down and so forth, all kind of hinges back to Nimrod. So Alexander is saying hey, this is the same person in all of these cultures, all of these ancient cultures. This is the same deity that these people are worshiping, even if they don't know that that's who they're worshiping. That's the argument that Alexander Hislop is making. Okay. The following is the account of Tammuz, given by the celebrated Maimonides, deeply read in all the learning of the Chaldeans. And here it is. When the false prophet named Tammuz preached to a certain king that he should worship the 7 stars and the 12 signs of the zodiac, that king ordered him to be put to a terrible death. So you see what happened? Tammuz is advocating, yes, Tammuz is advocating the worship of the stars. So with that, they say, oh, we got to put this dude to death right now. On the night of his death, all the images assembled from the ends of the earth into the temple of Babylon to the great golden image of the sun, which was suspended between heaven and earth. That image prostrated itself in the midst of the temple, and so did all the images around it, while it related to them all that bad happened to Tammuz. The images wept and lamented all the night long, and then in the morning they flew away, each to his own temple again, to the ends of the earth. And hence arose the custom every year on the first day of the month, Tammuz, to mourn and to weep for Tammuz. So we read about that in Ezekiel. Go to Ezekiel. Ezekiel chapter 8, verse 13.
The book of Ezekiel, chapter 8 and 13. He said also unto me, turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see greater abominations that they do. Then he brought me to the door of the gate of the Lord's house, which was toward the north. And behold, there sat women weeping for Tammuz.
This is an abomination. This custom that they do every year. This is abomination. Weeping for Tammuz. And the sad thing is, some of our brothers and sisters, right now, we weep for our family members that we have lost. To the end that we memorialize. That's basically what's going on right here. Bible just called it an abomination. Let me continue. Where did I get lost? Here we go, right here. Right here. There is here, of course, all the extravagance of idolatry as found in the Chaldean sacred books that Maimonides had consulted. But there is no reason to doubt the fact stated either as to the manner or the cause of the death of Tammuz. The manner and cause, the cause is that Tammuz was practicing, attempting to advocate false religion, idolatry, worshiping of the stars. Okay. Here we go. In this Chaldean legend, it is stated that it was by the command of a certain king that this ringleader in apostasy was put to death. Who could this king be? Who was so determinedly opposed to the worship of the host of heaven? From what is related of the Egyptian Hercules, we get very valuable light on this subject. It is admitted by Wilkerson that the most ancient Hercules, and truly primitive one, was he who was known in Egypt as having, by the power of the gods, by the Spirit, fought against and overcome the giants. Now, no doubt, the title and character of Hercules were afterwards given by the pagans to him whom they worshiped as the grand deliverer or Messiah, just as the adversaries of the pagan divinities came to be stigmatized as the giants who rebelled against heaven. But let the reader only reflect who were the real giants that rebelled against heaven. And here we go. Here we come now. They were Nimrod and his party. For the giants were just the mighty ones of the opposition to the apostasy from the primitive worship. Go to Genesis. Genesis chapter 10 and verse 8.
Chapter 10 and verse 8. And Nimrod, he began to be a mighty one in the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, and is that Erech, and and Canaan in the land of Shinar. Out of that land went forth Ashar, and built Nineveh, and the city Rehoboth, and Calah.
So this is who we are talking about. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel. Babylon. Babylon. So this is who we're talking about. This guy right here, Nimrod. Okay. So here we go, back at this article. We're starting right here. It says, if Shem was at that time alive, as beyond question he was, who so likely as he, in exact accordance with this deduction, we find that one of the names of the primitive Hercules in Egypt was Sem. If Sem then was the primitive Hercules who overcame the giants, check it out, who overcame the giants, and that not by mere physical force, but by the power of God or the influence of the Holy Spirit, that entirely agrees with his character. And more than that, it remarkably agrees with the Egyptian account of the death of Osiris. So now we see how Nimrod died, or how Tammuz died, or Osiris died. The Egyptians say that the grand enemy of their God overcame him, not by open violence, but that having entered into a conspiracy with 72 of the leading men of Egypt, he got him into his power, put him to death, and then cut his dead body into pieces and sent the different parts to so many different cities throughout the country. The real meaning of this statement will appear if we glance at the judicial institutions of Egypt. So, you remember the story in Judges 19, where the man's concubine was raped and killed, and the man chopped his concubine up into 12 parts and sent 12 parts to the rulers of Israel so that they could judge the matter, because they wanted justice. The man wanted justice against those Benjaminite men, and the rulers wouldn't rule to honor the man. And so not in the initial or the Benjaminites. I'm jacking the story up now. Let's go to Judges 19, because I'm jacking the story up. And go to chapter 19, verse 29.
Judges chapter 19, verse 29. And when he was coming to his house, he took a knife and laid hold on his concubine and divided her, together with her bone, into 12 pieces, and sent her into all the coast of Israel. It was so that all that saw it said, there was no such deed done nor seen from the day that the children of Israel came up out of the land of Egypt unto this day. Consider of it, take advice, and speak your mind.
Keep going.
Okay, next 20, there's 20 and 1. And all the children of Israel went out, and the congregation was together, one man, and to Beersheba, I say like that, with the land of Gilead, unto the Lord in Mizpah. The chief of all the people, even of all the tribes of Israel, presented themselves in the assembly of the people of God, 400,000 footmen that drew swords. Now the children of Benjamin heard that the children of Israel were gone up to Mizpah. The children of Israel tell us, how was this wickedness? And the Levite, the husband of the woman that was slain, answered and said, I came into, Gadea, that belongeth to Benjamin, and I may
and my concubine.
My concubine, Lord. Sorry about that. And the men of
Gibeah
rose against me and beset house round about upon me by night, and thought to have slain me. And my concubine have they forced that she is dead. And I took my concubine and cut her in pieces and sent her throughout all the country of the inheritance of Israel. For they have committed lewdness and folly in Israel. Behold, you are all children of Israel. Give her your advice and counsel. And all the people arose as one man, saying, we will not of us go. We will not any of us go to his tent, neither will we any of us turn into his house. But now this shall be the thing which we will do to Gibeah.
So let me chime in. So you had Israel all in agreement, except you had men of Benjamin refusing to turn over the wicked men of Benjamin. They wouldn't turn those men over. And so you got the entire nation of Israel coming against the tribe of Benjamin, totally annihilating the tribe of Benjamin. There was just a small portion of men from the tribe of Benjamin that they were out, they was not around, so they didn't get caught up in that mess as to why the tribe of Benjamin was even preserved. So, but the point is, here we see this account in the book of Judges where this man chops up. And so, but this taken, the storytelling in Judges is taken from, although we don't have it documented in the Bible, apparently in other sources, like this Egyptian account, the story of Shem, S-E-M, Shem, is a similar story. And so we see then here in Judges where he would have took his cue from. He was taking his cue from Shem. Saul did the same thing, taking his cue from Shem. Saul would have also been taking his cue from Judges. So Nimrod was chopped up into pieces for wickedness. The mystery is that they then deified this wickedness. So Semiramis would then take this event and flip it on its head to make something wicked righteous. And in making it righteous, she also elevated her light as well. So she sets herself up as someone of significance. Semiramis becomes Mary. In the Christian religion, Semiramis becomes Mary. Nimrod, Tammuz, becomes baby Jesus. And this is how we get the brand of Christianity that Constantine promoted. The whole idea of the Christmas tree comes from this guy Nimrod. It has nothing to do with the Jesus of the Bible. Nothing to do at all. Jesus of the Bible, go to Wisdom of Solomon. That's in the Apocrypha. chapter 7 and verse 1.
The book of Wisdom of Solomon.
Yeah. Hey, Shamash, when you read, somehow, can you read a little bit louder? You sound somewhat faint. I don't know if your hand is covering the mouthpiece.
Nope. And I'm trying to. I am projecting my voice. Let me try this.
There,
try to hold
okay.
on close to me.
Yeah, that does well.
Okay, let's try this. Wisdom of Solomon 7 and 1. I myself also am a mortal man, like to all, and the offspring of him that was first made of the earth. And in my mother's womb was fashioned to be blessed in the time of 10
Say that again. In my mother's womb.
My mother's womb was fashioned to be flesh in the time of 10 months.
Uh-huh.
Compacted in blood.
Okay.
Of the seed of man.
Of the seed of man. Semen. Sperm. Read.
And the pleasure that came with sleep.
And the pleasure that came with sleep. A man and a woman who do what they do. Their business. The pleasure that came with sleep. Go ahead.
3. And when I was born, I drew in the common air and fell upon the earth, which is of like nature, and the first voice which I uttered was crying.
Mm-hmm.
As animals do. I was nursed in swaddling clothes.
Okay.
And that with care.
Read.
For there is no king that had any other beginning of birth.
Read that again.
For there is no king that had any other beginning of birth.
There is no king. So our Christ was born through the pleasure of sleep. There is no immaculate conception. Doesn't that immaculate conception once again my little fancy compact Bible dictionary, my raggedy Bible dictionary. And it must be under Mary. I thought it was under the word immaculate. Let me go to the word Mary. Go to the word Mary. Here we go. Okay. And so there it says, can you see that? Or is it too small?
Too small in this see. Mary, the Virgin.
Yeah. I want you to go down near the bottom of that this whole little paragraph. See where it says Immaculate Conception?
I'll try it right there. Immaculate Conception is 1854, an assumption of Mary. And that's where it stops at.
What's the dates on that?
That's right. The date is 1854.
Uh-huh. What else?
Assumption of Mary is 1950.
So it's not until 1854 and 1950 that this whole concept of Immaculate Conception is created. Wow. According to this. So teaching of Immaculate Conception is brand new. Right? Go to Romans.
Give me a second to note that real quick. 1850 something.
I will put that back on the screen if you want me to. Bear with me. Here we go. I'll put it right back on the screen. There you go.
I'll wait for this green mic is making the screen black right now.
Can you see it?
Okay, there we go. Got it.
You got it? Okay. So now, go to Romans chapter 1 and verse 3.
Hold the phone. Hold on. Book of Romans, chapter 1 and verse 3. Concerning his son Jesus, our Lord, which was made of the seed of David, according to the flesh.
According to the flesh. According to the flesh. Christ came is a descendant of King David. According to the flesh, meaning David had sex, in which case Solomon was produced. Now David had multiple sons, but Solomon had children, Rehoboam had children, so on and so forth, that we get Joseph and Mary having sexual intercourse. Go to Acts chapter 2, verse 30.
Verse. Therefore, being a prophet, and knowing that God had sworn with oath to him that of the fruit of his loins, according to the flesh, he would raise up Christ to sit on his throne.
Mm. So, this is Christ. Christ was born of the same way any of us were born. Through the pleasure. Go ahead.
Through the loins.
Through the loins. The pleasure that came with sleep. That's a friendly way of saying it when children are around, I guess. Because then you can talk, what you talking about? I'm talking.
Because we're telling a Christmas story.
So this other morphed Jesus that comes from the storyline of Nimrod was birthed out of a tree. No, that's not the Jesus that we know. That's not the Jesus that we know. Any questions on the information that I've presented so far?
None. None.
Let's see, on trying to notate stuff about let me see what the Puritans I got written down. The Puritans could not tolerate celebrating for which was not of biblical standards. And that was what we're talking about. but I'm trying to make sure I notated that right.
Let me go back to that page for you. Is that large enough for you?
Yeah, but I'll figure it
out. Which part is it that you're trying to get?
Yeah, I got it written down pretty much.
Okay.
I have written down the Puritans could not tolerate this celebration, or which was not of biblical standard. That's okay.
Right. Yeah, I thought that was kind of heavy. Could not tolerate this celebrating for which there was no biblical sanction. There's no sanction in the Bible that says celebrate Christmas.
And I also got, let me see if I got this accurate, that Christmas was sanctioned in Alabama in the 1800s. But I got 1863, which might not be accurate.
1836.
I had it backwards. Not 1863, but 1836. And
there you go, right there. 1836.
Yeah, I got it. Okay, and Saturnalia, I got a period of merrymaking and jubilation, and that's all I got.
Okay, you know what? Thank you for mentioning that. I had hoped to go a little bit deeper with that one, so bear with me. Mm-hmm. Bear with me. Bear with me. Okay. So Saturnalia is also Feast of Bacchus is also a thing that's going to come into play. Feast of Bacchus, wherein there are these orgies, there's all this drinking, and the whole idea behind it was to purify the soul. That was the idea, was purifying the soul. Okay. Let me see if I can make this larger. There we go. Is that large enough?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Saturnalia is an ancient Roman festival and holiday in honor of the god Saturn, held on the 17th of December of Julian calendar, and later expanded with festivals through December 23rd. All these holidays, again, they get merged. They kind of consolidate them, and they overlook, like Easter and Passover. We see the word Easter in our Bible one time in the book of Acts. But when we read it, what we also see that's happening is Feast of Unleavened Bread. But if you're unlearned in the Bible, you're unlearned in the Bible to the end, you don't know what Feast of Unleavened Bread is. Because how many times have we read the Bible? We don't know all those customs. I know I've read the book of Acts prior to this understanding, and I didn't know what Feast of Unleavened Bread was. You know, now I know what it is. It puts things in a totally different perspective. Feast of Unleavened Bread is starting with Passover. So Passover, Feast of Unleavened Bread, those two things belong to us. Easter is happening at about the same time period. And then you have, what's that man's name we taught about just recently ago? What's the white man's name? Huh? Constantine.
Talking about the guy that wrote the book.
So Constantine, he's merging all these things together. Okay. All right. So Saturnalia.
And also, sometimes we write down what we think we heard. Because I wrote down just Tammuz is the same as Nimrod or Herod.
Nimrod.
Got that right. Okay.
Herod is a governor.
Yeah, I got it right.
Yep. Herod was an Idumean. Nimrod was a Cushite. Make sense? Okay, continuing on. The holiday was celebrated with a sacrifice at the Temple of Saturn in the Roman Forum, and a public banquet followed by private gift giving, continual partying, and a carnival atmosphere that overturned Roman social norms. Gambling was permitted, and masters provided table service for their slaves, as it was seen as a time of liberty for both slaves and freedmen alike. A common custom was the election of a king of the Saturnalia, who would give orders to people which were to be followed and presided over the merrymaking. The gifts exchanged were usually gag gifts or small figurines made of wax or pottery known as sigillari. The poet Catullus called it the best of days. Saturnalia was the Roman equivalent to the earlier Greek holiday of Chronia, which was celebrated during the Attic month of Hecatombia. All right, we're going to pass that. Let me see here. Origins. Here we go. In Roman mythology, Saturn was an agricultural deity who was said to have reigned over the world of the Golden Age, when humans enjoyed the spontaneous bounty of the earth without labor in a state of innocence. The revelries of Saturnalia were supposed to reflect the conditions of the lost mythical age. The Greek equivalent, we just read about that. Continuing on. We go, here we go, right here. The Thessalian festival of Peloria in honor of Zeus, Pelorios, and an unnamed festival from Babylon. He also mentions that the custom of masters dining with their slaves associated with the Athenian festival. Okay, so we get this whole idea that the slaves get to be a master for the day, the Lord of Saturnalia. So he's acting out. There was something else I wanted to touch on from all of this. And right now I forget. It was Saturnalia. There was another custom that I wanted to touch on. I can't think of it right now. Say again.
What letter it begins with?
I don't remember. I have to go back through the readings, through the Alexander Hyssop readings to try to remind myself what it was. I think I remember. Yeah. Here we go. Bear with me.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, I see you.
Okay. Okay. Here we go. This part right here. Okay. The Phileo-Clean calendar of AD 354, part 6, gives a festival of Natalis Invicti on December 25th. There is limited evidence that this festival was celebrated before the mid-4th century. Same Phileo-Clean calendar, part 8, also mentions the birth of Jesus Christ, stating that the Lord Jesus Christ was born 8 days before the calends of January. That is December 25th. Since the 12th century, there have been speculations that the near solstice date of December 25th was for Christmas was selected because it was the date of the festival of Dies Natalis Solis Invicti. But historians of late antiquity make no mention of this, and others speculate Aurelian chose December 25th to shadow early Christian celebrations already on the rise. So not true. We see this guy right here. He lays out really good arguments. I strongly suggest that each of you go out and you get this book right here, Two Babylons. This is the book.
You know what, man? I think I kid you not. I thought we dealt with that book years ago. I got the book. I don't. Oh man, I gotta uncover it.
So the second writings, the second information that I was coming from is coming from this book. It's coming from this book right here. Okay. It's not. Go ahead.
I got that book somewhere.
I'll be looking online and possibly ordering.
So this is where that information came from this book. Okay, this is where you read about Nimrod, that whole history and what have you, and Christmas, Easter, and the whole shebang.
I think that book is more than
our friend has that book.
Yes.
Yeah. I know that I've seen it in his bag a time or two.
Well, that might be the one I'm talking about.
So that's your book?
Yeah.
I just assumed that it was his.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. All right. I'm going to stop videoing.